Peace, 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 peace. Greetings, greetings. Greetings, greetings. I got food in my mouth. Man. Okay. I realize that first, let's give an honor to source, to the creator, the most high. Whatever your higher power is, let's clap it up for yourself and so forth. I realized that video before I did not even have my headphones auto in. You know, yeah, I'm still rocking the headphones with the look like a dog chewed on them. You know, sometimes you gotta get your message through no matter what. But I realized, you know, for those that have those iPhone headphones, don't come over here judging now. But I realized, you know, it had a little shortage in it and then it didn't connect. So when I listened to my previous video, first 30 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, you can hear everything in the background. I had a little moment before I came here to want to talk about this. I feel like I want to set the phone up. Yeah, that's probably gonna be a whole lot better if I do those. Perfect. So yeah, hope they don't mess that. Yeah. How am I gonna approach this right now? Let's see. It's been like an emotional roller coaster thus far. Those who do follow like astrology, you know, it's been in this Cancer season. And a lot of the energy is centered around like, you know, the matriarchal emotions, family, you know, all those things connected, even ancestrally. Being that, you know, Cancer is ruled by the moon as well. And the moon is connected to our emotions. So a lot of things are very sensitive. It's not just you, it's just how the energy is. And what I really want to discuss is like recovery. You know, what I mean by recovery, you know, let's say if you know someone, and even if you don't, just gonna bring insight to this. Someone who like goes through rehab in life, whether that's physical rehab, substance abuse, and so forth. I feel like what's not talked about enough is, like, for me personally, what's happening is me having to rehabilitate myself from childhood woundings or just experiences. Me being recovered or being restored so much with that innocence that at a point in time in my life I feel like did not exist or even was capable, me being capable of even to grasp that part of myself again. So I've had a lot of memories resurface. Those of you that are new, like I've spoken about my mother wounds or my mommy issues, things that pertain to my childhood. And there's a lot of things that right now in this season has been coming up for me a lot, dealing with one of the most personal ones is I dealt with a lot of physical abuse, verbal abuse from my mom. So I've been trying my best, like in a healthy way, because the thing about, I could use the term rehab or rehabilitation, but that's a, like, you're trying to recover and rehabilitate yourself from the fact of what you've experienced, even the people you've hurt in the process, because, you know, we just now coming into our awareness of like how we were hurt or being hurt in our innocence, and how that has had an effect on even our relationships and our foundations. And it's been I cannot even always put it into words for how much this has really affected my life. It's almost like a disease in a way that I'm healing and curing myself from. And that self-realization is like, do I really feel like I want to even continue a relationship with this person. Like I said, this can be different for everyone. There's things where, you know, memories, again, repressed emotions, repressed memories that come up. And through my consistent focus on healing and acknowledging these wounds, those things don't just immediately go away. I'll have moments like, seriously, like I'm washing dishes, and things will be coming up and I just get like angry out of nowhere. And I think that's what people aren't aware of, or I wasn't aware of, like how much repressed emotions and memories that I've had connected to this very individual. And it brings up even more me dealing with people in the matriarchal, certain women that represented, you know, the aspect of being a more nurturing, well, should have been a more nurturing and embracing, and not, you know, those things now in my mid-30s, realizing like I never had a safe home and environment. And that has how that played out in a lot of relationships when I wasn't aware of these traumas or aware of these repressed emotions, and wonder why I used to push it down, push it away, or how it became so uncontrollable. It's because of those very things that I no longer ignore now. But through these years of healing, facing these traumas, almost like cleaning up the trash of things that my mom and my dad should have faced. And it's been very challenging, because it affects your relationship, but it affects most importantly relationship you have with people. Again, from my experiences, even from my sisters, like connecting with them, you know, this wound is very apparent, like that I'm able to see more vividly now. And I started to realize how much hatred people have for themselves and never really cared for their kids. And that's been one of the deepest wounds for me, the deepest things to accept and no longer to take personally, because that's when I realized I was taking so much of it personally that it affected a lot of, or most of my relationship with the opposite sex. And now that I'm more aware and becoming more self-sufficient and self-reliable and self-aware, and no longer like self-deceiving myself or, you know, self-abusing myself, these patterns become more aware as you gradually move forward. Like they're becoming more and more, these memories become more and more clear, because you gotta realize at a point in time we were around these people so much, so energetically, you're talking about, just think about like our first years where we didn't, you know, we were so innocent, and we were, you know, from my personal experience, like if I get a whooping immediately, then I would go lay down. There was no nurturing after that. Like if I would get a whooping, spanking, like there were moments where I had memories come up where my mom would slap me just for talking back. And then to have other, like I was telling my partner, a memory resurfaced the other day where I still have like the mark on this mark right here. You see? Yeah, it's like a scar right here that healed eventually. But there was a moment where my mom, you know, those of you that play sports or whatever, you know, you have those trophies that are probably like 12 inches or probably, if that size. But the bottom of those old trophies was like this. Matter of fact, this is perfect. It was just like this. I think this is marble. Is it? Basically, it's some type of rock. But this is perfect because I didn't even know, like, I thought this was plastic. But no, this is marble. Like, this is exactly how those trophies were made at the bottom. And the old ones at that, to keep it stable. You know, some of those old trophies was either metal or they begin to make it plastic. I just recall one time this memory resurfaced, like, I recalled walking down the stairs when I was like, I think this is when I was in high school. And this vague memory of my mom, like, just because I talked back or said something back, you know, I've talked about this before, just because you speak up, you know, your sovereignty, your free will, just to let someone know how you feel. And all I remember is I got down these, I say, 10, 11, 12 steps. And I'm walking towards I think I got angry at something. I walked towards my grandmother's car. And all I can remember is a trophy hitting me in the corner of my head right here. You know, if you know, that's close to your temple. And that's very significant because that's like a sensitive place to your brain. And I remember, because it missed it right there, but I remember her throwing that trophy in the corner of the trophy. Again, the hard part, literally split me open right here. And I just recall blood just coming out my eyes, into my eyes and down my face. And I was just crying, got in the car, and my grandmother just said, "You should have shut your ass up. You should be talking back anyway." So that memory, again, just because that's probably like over probably about 15 years ago. And this is why I talk about these things, because not only is it therapy for me, but it's, you know, it's something I possibly eventually, if I'm called or led to get therapy for, when it comes to just the fact of like having a healthy outlet, because that's the most challenging thing with these experiences, is that the people that you want to confide in and about, like if I wanted to talk to my mom about this, I'm just now at 34 having to tell my mom that we're just now having a trusting relationship. And it's not a communication that's always like every day. No, I've had to stand in my power after all the abuse, self-abuse, and abusing others, the patterns that I picked up, which I'm not proud of, which I'm realizing how I developed those foundations, why, even in the demographics or even in those environments where she knew not to get help or didn't want to. Then you're talking about, I tell people, years and years of traumatic experiences. And to even now, like, have a microscope on those things, it's like, wow. You're talking about memories and emotions that's pushed down, that's in the body, that builds up over time. And even the fact of how, through my own self-abuse, self-neglect, because of these patterns that I picked up on from other people, that projecting, that putting others through similar experiences, whether either, you know, I was in dynamics where I was being used or using that pattern to do the same to others. And so, you know, it's to even talk about that memory regarding her makes me more want to distance myself. That's the most challenging thing when I'm talking about recovery. You're talking about recovering from the people, them being whether a caregiver or not, recovering from people who are supposed to protect you, who are supposed to nurture you, embrace you, and so forth. And from personal experience, I didn't have many home environments that were safe. I'm just now, I kid you not, like, it's fucking crazy, like, just now experiencing a home environment that is peaceful. And what I mean by that is like, because I had to gradually come into peace with myself or make peace with these things and put it in my rearview mirror. That has been a process over the years. It's not perfect, it's been a process. You know, I was in environments where we call it nitpicking. Like, I remember my mom would just find the littlest things to argue, scream about. Then when you try to find silence in the home, she'll get angry, slam cabinets, slam dishes, do stuff. And, you know, those things right there, even when you know, at my age now can still be triggering, because I realized like it affected my nervous system. And then I've had patterns where, again, I'm not proud of to even inflict pain onto others, because I knew not how to control it. I knew not how to navigate the emotions, or even sometimes there wasn't even outlets to who I could speak to, because again, from those mother wounds, I began to not trust women so much, to where seeing the same patterns, same energies, things play out through women in similar ways. And even if there's room or any type of leg room for them to show me a different side that was the opposite of my mom, there were moments where the mental disorder around even gaslighting or even purposely doing something to irritate that person. And it's like I developed dysfunctional love language. And at such a young age, to where even when I was getting, let's say, a righteous love or a love from a woman that didn't have intentions on hurting, harming, or anything, I still knew nothing about it. I still wasn't familiar with it. It still was like abnormal to me. In my universe, in my world, I was like, nah, this is too good to be true. We've all heard that before, like, this is too good to be true. And again, from these gradually relationships and stuff, I realized like now, I'm finally getting to rest my spirit, my soul, my being. And this is how I'm progressing, now learning to progress and use that pain, use those traumas to create a life that I love, instead of in the past hate the life that I was creating. And, you know, shout out to Sister Solar that mentioned something that brought me to tears while I was listening to it. Was in her video, she was saying how, what was that she mentioned? I no longer take, what is it, how did she word that? The hatred my mother had for me, I no longer take personally. Oh my gosh. How many of us can relate to that? Even in the father-daughter dynamic or whatever. Just anyone. That took me so many years to learn how to really gradually learn my self-worth, to not take it personally. And it really hit me because I cared so much as a little boy what my mom thought of me. And that's getting me to, like, I'm gonna show at the end of this video the books, which I'm grateful of. The 2 books that I just published that are now available on Lulu, and one is global or international, and the other one is soon to be. That's in the process. But it led up to that. You know, me now, I've always been a writer or artist, but now using those things where there was no guidance or no support around it. And, you know, again, when I was young, I was so codependent on my mom. Like, I remember specifically, now that I know now, that I used to be at her hip, like literally, as a little boy, be at her hip. And I felt like she could do no wrong, or not even just wrong, she just, you know, I was that desperate of wanting to receive some type of love from that specific woman. I was so desperately trying to feel like she'll come around. You know what I'm saying? We've all been there. They'll come around. You know what I'm saying? They'll get better. You're hoping they'll get better, especially when you had a mother that has dealt with substance abuse or any type of physical or verbal abuse. You know, and then you're on the other end of that and receiving all that pain and that, you know, her internal warfare. I remember specifically going to what I know now, environments where she was getting doped up. I didn't know that. You know, I'm young. I just have memories. And I didn't know that these wasn't safe environments. For all I knew, I could have been inhaling anything. So I say that to say this is from so many years of consistent environments where I did not feel safe, did not feel secure. The physical, verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, and so forth, that affects the nervous system, meaning everything in your body. Our body naturally stores these things, and that's why I recommend the book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's because a lot of these things I'm becoming aware of, I realized like it was stored. It was, you know, it's like a, I reference this in the book that I created, like talking about how the things we experience, or it's like a computer, like a database, and people come into your life like either to upgrade you or reflect or be like a virus that affects the computer or your body. I mean, you have to fight it off, or in a way cleanse it out of your body. And so I reference that to like our mainframe, or our body, or our DNA structure, or who we are. And that's what I start to become more aware of, who the people and certain things. And that's been the push-pull thing, to where I had to accept, like the little boy in me now, I have to protect. I have to protect my inner child from the very things that wanted to be a virus. Or even at that time when I was a child, where I didn't have the power then to, well, have the strength to overpower them physically. Now it's more so like, I know I have the power to, have the strength to overpower them, but I don't have to do that in an intentional way of hurting someone. Now it's more so the mental aspect. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's decluttering, clearing out that energy, those memories, and those are the things that come up, and that's how I'm able to use those memories and feel, because repressed memories, those things that come up and replay in our mind. And then I realized like those were the things that affected me a lot when I was in relationships, is that things in my relationship triggered something that reminded me of my mother. And I couldn't get past it because I didn't know how. And that kept me stuck, or in a loop of a continuous cycle of trying to attempt to break a generational chain or curse. And so that energy followed every relationship, that same thing. And until I faced it internally, and until I acknowledged it, I realized like, wow, the only way I can close out this chapter and move forward is if I accept this for what it is, look at it and be like, you have no power here. And I take back my power. I take back that which, when my childhood, what was stolen from me, which was my innocence, which was taken from me when I did not have the free will to operate. And so now gradually, at this age, I realize I'm being restored with that innocence, and now I get to operate that. And so how that has affected even my relationship as a father, from my childhood to being a father now, it looks different. It's like those things that I want to relate to when they come to my daughter, or when it comes to a child, it's like a part of us, or a part of me as well. Sure, a lot of us can relate to this. It's like, due to our blockages or childhood traumas we've had, we long for that innocence, that freedom, that liberation of just being, you know, in our natural element, being in that innocence, and going out there skipping and living life and seeing life, you know, the fascination of seeing the, you know, fascination, or just the beauty in all things. But again, then that's a process of like, I can myself, from experiencing just those things that happen, it has been it's been a journey. Like I said, there are people still from my relationships when I wasn't as aware as I was, you know, of my own behavior patterns. And even when I had no intentions on doing certain things, there still are probably women out there, or people out there, when I know I haven't been the best partner, best friend, best version of myself. And I don't feel shame or guilt. It's just I can see now my position, or my place, and where I'm like, wow, if I look at what I have, the foundations of what I experienced, can I say I was perfect through it all? Because that would really become very narcissistic. Because I would dismiss everyone else and just focus solely on my emotions, not how they feel. And I was in that stage as well because, again, I saw people naturally embrace their anger, their emotions, their everything. And I was on the other end of that, receiving those projections and so forth. Then I start to realize, as I gradually start to take back my power, as I start to become more mature and emotionally intelligent, I start to realize, like, wow, I don't have to be like them, but I have to realize I was them. And through the beauty of that, I realized, like, wow, this too shall pass and this can change. But the life that I want to receive and live in, I have to realize, in order to obtain that harmony, that peace, and so forth, there's no jumping over, skipping over. I'm not exempt, just like you're not exempt from those karmic lessons of clearing that to walk on that Dharma path, to experience that Dharma, and to have that energy show up in other people. At a point in time, I felt like I couldn't even get away from these very people. I was running away young. And, you know, that was another memory that came up. I was running away because there were memories coming up where I don't even know the number of whoopings that I probably had. And the dysfunction in that is that some people will actually agree with me, thinking that you have to do that to control someone, to try to master them, you know, to even discipline them. And so, you know, I remember in elementary school, middle school, like when my grandma used to try to whoop me, and, you know, sometimes I didn't even know where my mom was because I realized her father wound, she was so attached to this man that she was with. And here it is, my grandmother left, you know, with her baggage and her own, you know, thing, and having to be there for kids that are not even hers. And, you know, that affects so many people because she never had an opportunity to really rest. She never had an opportunity to really assess her emotions. So then we as kids became the scapegoat, basically, a lot of us. And I just remember memories of like getting whooped, and I would grab the belt. I was tired that young. I was tired of getting hit, and I would fight back. And I remember specifically where when I grabbed the belt and swung back and all like that, I know it blew her mind. But you gotta realize, in these people's mind, they're assuming like what they're doing is actually okay. They're thinking like they're whooping you into alignment. Like, what the fuck? Or to your purpose. And I've heard people say, man, had I not got them whoopers when I was young, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Yeah, you at what you at, but at the same time, it ain't got shit to do with your success. That has everything to do with your repressed emotions and memories. So that memory came up to where I had other cousins in the house that were bigger than me. And when I grabbed a belt and swung back, you know, I was struggling with it because I just got tired. And then that's when she, you know, my cousins began to fight me too because she told them that I hit her, like, and I did, because people don't realize it's a natural thing for a child or anyone to protect themselves. You're not going to sit there and let someone hit you and continue and not fight back. That is not human nature. We are in a place where naturally, you know, you're talking about an innocent child. You know, if I haven't hit you, or if I haven't did anything and you intentionally just from your own frustrations and not knowing how to manage your emotions, attack me, that's not justifiable. And it's crazy how we have grew up in a society that has groomed this as being something natural, whether physical or just emotional abuse and so forth, verbally. So, you know, I remember grabbing the belt, fighting with her, struggling, and I was trying to rip it from her, and I ended up hitting her because, you know, I'm sitting here trying to, like, I'm not taking these more whoopings. It's just what it is. That's when, you know, she told, he hit me, because I got, you know, at that time I was stronger than her. This is my grandmother. So I'm like, okay, I got to that point where, like, fuck this, you're not whooping me no more. I'm grabbing this belt. And then that's when my other cousins came and they started to hit him and they started to fight him. I somehow got out the door and ran, literally from where I lived at, at the time, and then where I was going, because that was this, who at a time where I call her my godmother. That's like a hood term, somebody that's like another mother to you, a matriarchal figure. My godmother at the time, who she just never whooped me, never cussed at me, never talked to me any kind of way. And it's wild because I was fighting to leave an environment where I was doing my best to escape it. I remember specifically running away and her calling the police. And I kid you not, I was like, the police was trying to chase after me, trying to find me. And I remember like literally running from where I was to where my godmother lived. And if my calculations are correct, it had to be at least probably 4 or 5 miles. Probably more. But I just remember like running through shortcuts. I would hear the police sirens and literally run because I was scared. My nervous system, that fight or flight kicked in. And you gotta think about like years and years and years. And that's why I feel like when people even experience like what I've experienced and also repeat it, because when people are in physical abusive relationships, from my perspective, where I feel like a lot of it, if you get to the root of it, most of those people have had some type of physical, seen something physical, or probably have been abused, and they don't know how to navigate it. They don't know how to honor those emotions and so forth. And they really take on this narrative as it being normal. So they've seen this consistently and replay it from their subconsciousness to their conscious, or sometimes even unconsciously aware. From my own experience, I didn't ever have intentions on hurting no one. Like I don't have shame and guilt around others. My thing is that I didn't know how to navigate those emotions. And it's crazy as it sounds, it was just weird to where even when those things happen, whether it happened to me or, you know, I impulsively done it to someone where I didn't know how to control the emotion, the messed up part around it was like staying in it, or just thinking that it would get better, or again, not having the awareness around even our childhood woundings, our experiences, what we really dealt with. You know, growing up, a lot of this shit was not discussed. We didn't talk about this stuff now until like you're seeing it now in humanity, when things are crumbling apart and people are suffering from identity crisis because a lot of their experiences when they grew up, they're realizing like what's not the best, what's not safe. And then you go out there and co-create with someone, create a child, and you continue a cycle of unhealthy, unsafe environment, and you don't even know why. Like, okay, why am I not getting, you know, why does this keep happening to me? And that's when deeper things come in spiritually, like when you talk about karma, when you talk about things ancestrally, when you talk about energetically, things that are, you know, happen within the matriarchal or patriarchal. And, you know, that's a whole nother subject, but it's just that deep. And so even with, you know, again, that memory, I remember specifically, I remember the shoes, I remember what I had on and everything. I was running, has these white, crisp New Balances. And I remember like literally running to like, I think it was like light out until it got dark. Like that's how long I was running to where I would hit the police. Because again, my grandmother called the police. And you know, I don't know if she was saying like I ran away or such and such. It's just basically became to that place where she couldn't do nothing with me. When I reflect on the memories that I have, I definitely had anger issues. And it wasn't that it was an issue with my anger. It was the simple fact that like, I was fucking tired of these people. I was tired of the environment. I got tired of being in unstable, unhealthy, unsafe environments. And so when you look at a lot of our lives, especially for me, that's something that internally that I've been tooth and nail, blood, sweat, and tears fighting for that peace, that security, that worthiness of even being in a home environment, of even being safe again within myself, to be able to honor. And I had to get through that from those blocked emotions, those blocked chakras, those things that I realized I had no idea where I developed it from, but I inherited through my mother and my father, and the foundations, even when I became a victim of, you know, molestation, or, you know, being touched on young, or, you know, I had many bullies. I was sitting here reflecting on that. I had cousins that just because they were older, I remember specifically, like, if we did something at my great-great-grandma's, you know, playing around, just being kids, that was one of our uncles that would specifically come over there after he got out of work and whoop us all. Like, bending over the couch, whooping us all. And this was a bigger guy, bigger than me, to where, you know, there was force around these, you know, behind that. And I reflect on that. And I was sitting there telling my partner, I was like, yo, you're talking about how people don't realize how much, you know, not just subconsciously in the brain through your neurotransmitters things are programmed, but the fact of the pain being programmed in your body. Like, you don't forget those hits. You don't forget, it doesn't go away. You can't erase it. You don't forget all of a sudden what happened. And that's the thing that scared me the most before I got into relationships, because all of my relationships was not abusive. The thing that led up to that had a lot to do with how much I suppressed throughout the years, and then later on, when I started getting into certain relationships, how much I repressed, like how much repressed emotions then began to surface. See, I suppressed them through, you know, because I wasn't a drinker until like later in my 20s. I suppressed it through that, or I just try to escape through that alcoholism. You know, going through these different phases and patterns where my career, certain career goals, certain career things that I was doing were mainly focused on external things, external acceptance. Basically things that mirror the foundations of my mom, or the foundations of the people who were insecure, never safe to be around, and so forth. So I would gradually go to be in these career like modeling and fashion, to where I would be so attached to the cheers and the likes on social media in the past. Not to say everyone wasn't genuine, but the fake support, almost. I created this fake world. See what I'm saying? And the reason I created that fake world is because I was around people, the environments I was around, the demographics, were people who were fake and dishonest with themselves. So I became a product of that. Even though there was moments navigating through my life, I just always teeter-totter between, like, this don't feel right, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Then when I do it, I knew that didn't feel right. Why did I do that? But again, this has been a process. It's like an onion. It's like layers to it, still learning. So that's when I realized, again, going back to my childhood, where I did not have, again, from the running away, and let me go back to that, from like running away and how I even met my godmother. Like, that was a part of me finding peace. And I realized that's what I would do in a lot of my relationships, whether it was an intimate setting or not. A lot of my trauma or trauma bonded relationships would definitely deeply reflect the foundations of the wounded mother that I had. And then some of the other platonic relationships, like women I know specifically, like never had sex or anything, but there was still an intimate setting, because intimacy is, you know, for me now, it's more intellectual, as I like to learn, got deeper into who I am. It's more on the, you know, intellectual aspect, because that's just my thing, communicating my feelings, communicating who I am. But the opposite of that was in my wounding, my lower nature, which was, you know, due to being touched on young, due to seeing environments where I was exposed to sex young, being, you know, as a young boy, hearing my mom and her boyfriend have sex through the wall, and it's loud, and then minutes later, hours later, they're fighting. Then the police shows up. You're just seeing all these things play out to where you're like, okay, well, police shows up. Sometimes no one goes to jail because she's trying to protect him from, you know, really that. In a way, it's like, it's so messed up, because it's like, even if after those fights and conflicts, even if he had to go because they would come so much, she would like want to protect him from that, because a part of her, I saw the wounding in that, the father wounding, because still in that man is still a little boy, still in her is still a little girl. So that father wound in her was a lot of abandonment. So she didn't want him to go. And that's how I connected to even my present thing that she would never say. And that's what a lot of us, as when we start to come into our self-worth and know our values, that once you gradually get away from these very people and break free and liberate yourself, which has had to happen internally, is that you will realize how much this was needed for your own evolution. But this is the thing that they will never say, but due to their own narcissist, selfish attachments to the idea of you as a daughter or son, no matter your age, it's rooted in a foundation that is unstable. That is woundedness, and they're thinking that it's normal. So this is when you see, and I've seen this personally, the emotion, basically whatever the roots of that foundation, like in the dark, become illuminated as you start to see the light within you. So you start to see more of the darkness in other people, and you start to see the foundation of that, like, wow. Whether you distance yourself and the memories come up, the repressive memories, or the suppressed things that you realize you suppress, the things they don't acknowledge, the things that you do, the things that you take into account that they don't. You see, it's a polarity aspect, and they will never accept it, because again, due to whatever they're taking on in their internal battle and their own growth they have to do, and you know, whether it's spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and on a soul level, you know, they're avoiding that. Again, highlights where you are in your own growth. And so they will never, due to the fact they're never taking account of what they've done, and continue to look over it and say, oh, you know, I've done the best I can, or not even apologize. Or even if they do, again, they're still, whatever that foundation is built upon will be exposed, like basically the inauthenticity of that foundation. Because like, you know your mother or someone else better than anybody when it comes to the fact of how you've been emotionally abused, neglected, abandoned, so forth and so forth. And so that's when you start to, as you progress and move forward and start to expand, it's almost like as you elevate and the frequency changes, there's a push-pull, it seems. And that's the thing about the recovery, because it's like you're trying to recover from these people. You're trying to recover the parts of you that you will no longer neglect and abandon. So these parts now, they almost like try to make up for, or even try to no longer can scapegoat, because again, these foundations are controlling narcissists, you know, however you try to scapegoat through you. And when they no longer can do that, they know that their pull on you energetically, or it's either withering away, breaking away, and they can feel it. This is one thing I've known on my journey. It's like I've even felt certain things to where memories have come up, or you know, sometimes you'll feel, sometimes a doubt will come up, or even shame or guilt around the fact that, like, well, am I doing this right, or am I doing this wrong? And that's when you have to stay focused and stay heart-centered and grounded, because that's the thing about breaking a generational chain and a curse. It's that you're coming into the unknown of things. They're so used to being in a comfortable lie, or being so comfortable with the foundations, and they're so blocked, or are not even aware of been doing things so consistent, you know, unconsciously or even purposefully, who knows, to where they're going to ride it out like that. Literally, people are going to probably leave this world in the very shit that they created. And that's just the reality of it. The deep thing is the acceptance. You know, as much as I wanted to say my mom, then I had to realize, like, there were things with my grandmother and so forth. So I've been in deep reflection with that. It's like that I've had to literally, what has happened to me in the last, I say, 10 years, I had to speak back up to the fucking first bullies that I had. I'm just be honest. Recently was like, I say about a year or two ago, I had to stand up to my grandmother, my mom. I even sat down with my mom, like boyfriend that was, you know, abusive and so forth. But, you know, it was just me, because sometimes it's different for everyone. Like, some of our upbringings are different to where we avoid conflict. And it doesn't, I'm not encouraging violence or anything like that. I'm talking about, like, literally taking back your power, speaking up, speaking your truth, because there's a righteous anger. Because, you know, we've seen people embrace and project onto us. But that little boy, you know, that little girl in you, that anger comes up around those memories, those emotions. And it's not that you gotta lash out. Sometimes things come up and they have to happen. And you feel much better after. I've had to have so much uncomfortable conversation with my mom to where I had to then begin to make peace, then to accept it, then allow myself, grant myself grace to move on. Same thing with my grandmother, same thing with siblings and so forth. Because in taking back that power and being on my own throne in life, being in my own, being secure within myself, that comes with recovery. Because those memories, you know, don't go away. Because look at recovered. Those things have just been covered up. You got to think about how people have been throwing a sheet over everything that they've done or so forth. That's why I say no one is exempt. But as you recover, like rediscover yourself, you pull the sheet off and under that sheet and start to see, like, wow. Or then, and actually when you do that and you start to see it, then it's the process of the healing. And when the healing happens and you face certain things within yourself, you remove, like, the foundation of what fueled or enabled those very things for those behavior patterns that you have experienced. And that's the thing that happens internally with us, is that we're breaking down these structures or things that we have happened within us when we allow these emotions, when we honor it, when we feel it. That means that we don't continue to suppress that emotion, because that suppressed emotion is connected to whatever trauma, whatever foundation that was built upon. Same with no matter what age you are. That doesn't mean that gradually those repressed emotions and memories don't come up. That is there to remind you when they do come up, what most have a challenge with getting through and finding a solution to, is that sometimes we're not aware, sometimes we're unconscious of the things that we do. But when we do try to find a solution, it's a beautiful thing, because that solution can be that debate or that argument or that conflict, you know, confrontation with you and someone else. Like I said, I'm not encouraging to hurt or intentionally do anything to someone. I encourage people to, sometimes you have to have those uncomfortable conversations and speak your truth. And imagine, like, a lot of us can relate to this. It's like you go on for so long knowing that these things hurt you, and then as soon as you start to speak up, all of a sudden these people are hurt. And it's wild, because that's how you usually see it play out. And I'm like, no, for all these years you're gonna act like you're hurt. Now I get to speak my truth after all these years. And so that's the beauty in even seeing the foolery that's going around, because a lot of us we're just like little ass kids, immature, or some people haven't even developed. They're not even growing wiser. We become wiser when we start to see what we're doing. Once we become aware, like we know. This is like a child young in that first, you know, a baby, 3 or 4 or 5. And this is something I had to step back and observe about myself. It's like, even into not just adulthood, but fatherhood, I started to see patterns of like my mom or people that I knew would be so, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, or expecting even a child to even know certain things when they're small, or even when they're doing certain things, and there's like the frustration behind it. And I realized, like, with my mom or just certain people in those environments that had so much hatred for themselves and so much anger and so much things repressed, is that they couldn't help but talk aggressively. They couldn't help but approach things in so much emotion, so impulsively, because they never sat down with it. They never had no one to therapeutically talk to them. And even if they try to sit with themselves, they will probably lose it, because that's why, you know, because some people don't know what to do when those memories come up. So there's an avoidance there. And that's how you see this pattern develop when people avoid conflict. See, they do that. That's another thing, that they gradually avoid conflict with the people who inflicted the pain. Whew, telling you, I've seen it. Like I said, this isn't everyone's narrative or whatever. I've seen it personally. Because you're trying to always be the peacemaker. But that's not everyone's dialogue. See, one thing I learned is, like, I grew up in so much conflict-driven environments that conflict is nothing new to me. But then I see the importance of peace now. Choosing my battles. Knowing when I've already won the war, because I'm at peace with myself and I don't got to get my energy to it. But for someone that's, I know that you're so used to seeing people brush stuff up under the rug and trying to keep the peace, they would avoid conflict a lot. Or they will avoid speaking up, because they don't know their power. Or now eventually, as they grow, they realize, like, wow, I need to speak up. This hurt me, you know. And then that's when your voice starts to become more powerful. Again, that was similar to what, again, I saw conflict-driven environments, but I also know what it was to have my voice, like, pushed down and pushed away, and no, you don't need to talk, because that was a part of my childhood. But it was like, the conflict aspect was like, I had to slowly be aware, like, this doesn't deserve my energy, this doesn't deserve my time and my so forth. No, let me just focus on myself. So that's the part, it looks different for everyone, that what connects us all is that I'm recovering things that may not relate to you. Or we may attract someone that is the opposite of that, but you could be showing them, like, speak up, or, you know, honor who you are, you know, encouraging. And those are the things that we feel has been lost for so long, is that we've seen people deny so much of their truth that they don't even know who they are. They just live a lie purposefully, unconsciously. And no longer are we doing it. Like, you know, feeling like we got to live how they live. Like, the fuck? Do what they do. And see, that's the thing about, we don't even realize we've been in environments where it's been so fake. It's been so inauthentic. It's been so inauthentic to where we don't even realize, like, we're patterning after people that hate themselves. And then when we become aware of that, we start to realize, like, oh my gosh, they really hate every part of themselves. And so then once we realize, like, we develop these patterns, and then we become aware, like, oh my gosh, now we have to unlearn and go back. And it's almost like, imagine your inner child in this water, like the ocean. And you can say it's like either in a boat or like a child that's, you know, trying to gasp for air or trying to get up. And a lot of us have been drowning in that emotion. And then you have to go back and recover, throw a life jacket or a life jacket to that little boy, little girl, so they can swim back to safety. So they can swim back to, that's a perfect analogy. Like, some of us have either the emotions we have been drowning in, or because we have taken things so personally and taken on others' burdens and their emotions and so forth, and trying to find a solution for them when we never will. The reality, the actuality. But again, that life jacket we've been trying to give everybody else but ourselves. So now we can give it to ourselves and then allow our inner child and to swim back to surface, meaning that a stable place or a secure place to where now you can realize, like, because once you swim back to that place, there's a resting period, there's a self-awareness, there's like a whole new world, because you're able to look out now and realize what you were in, what you escaped or got out of, or what you liberated yourself from, got through, and now you can allow yourself to be like, wow, that life jacket was for me all along. So this is what I'm gonna show y'all as I conclude this. Everything that I've been talking about has a lot to do with this. This is the one I just published, self-published. This is Reborn Through You. And the masterpiece that I created, I put it on there. This is available right now. I will put the link in my community center. But this one is available everywhere. Well, at Lulu right now, but soon, probably the next day or two, will be available globally, like Amazon and so forth. And again, a lot of these things that in here talks about, it's a lot of poetry, romance, dealing with either relationships, things personally that have happened that I've never discussed. But basically, it's just the authenticity of how I use my pain into gain. And again, it's the bigger picture. It's like the beauty of like now things happening rapidly because I'm able to focus more on myself, feel safe, feel secure, feel whole again. And that has been a process of getting away from the environments, from the people. Sometimes you have to cut them off, no communication and so forth, to pour back into myself. Let's see, the other book that I have, let's see, did they come up on here? Okay, this other one. This one right here is titled, I Finally Decided to Water Myself. And if you're just now here on my journey or coming in or whatever, or have already been here, this one is I decided to water myself. And this one again has a lot to do with things that I never got to say to my father and or mother. That sometimes the deep acceptance is that me pouring into myself now has a lot to do with, I may not ever get to have those conversations. And I'm honestly not looking forward to it, because I'd rather just pour into myself right now, and recovering those parts of myself from my childhood innocence has a lot to do with me watering myself now and having relationships and partnerships and businesships and so forth that reciprocate that which I'm putting out. And so that has a lot to do with now realizing that what no longer serves me and what I'm walking into. This one, again, the link will be in my community center and so forth. And you can look this one up on Lulu. Most likely, I believe it's available on Amazon. But again, Lulu right here. And this one is I Finally Decided to Water Myself. And again, it's things that I just talk about from my personal experiences. Some writing, some poetry. A lot of things that is relatable and authentic, honestly. That's just what it is. And even in that, I got stuff on there that I talk about. Like, I felt it real funny. Let me turn it around now. I felt it real funny to even, like, I ain't do no spell checks and none of that stuff. But what I mean by that is, like, I went in there, I was like, some words I got in there, like Gonna, Gonna, look up, I think one poem was like looker, like looking like, or just basically like experience like real childhood things and memories that I were reminded of. One of the books even talk about how I remember, and it's wild dysfunction around. I talked about how, like, in my upbringing, from my experience, those that know about food stamps and stuff, I talked about how even my experience with that, like how, you know, a lot of people can relate to this. Like, you know, your mama told you to go in the store and don't touch shit. That's how, that would be her specific word. Don't go in here and touch nothing. She would be like, don't go in here and touch nothing. Nothing. And if you do, you're going to get your ass whooped. And you know, you were happy because here it is, you finna go to the grocery store and you possibly can get what you want. Possibly. But it was just so much control around that. Because you gotta realize a lot of these corporations, a lot of these foundations that are now crumbling were so centered around these things with control or what someone can have, the limitations on it. And so you gotta realize how this has affected our mothers and their mindset, because they don't see beyond. They never saw the abundance in life. These things were founded on survival. It was never funded on humanitarianism or, you know, really prosperity and giving and, you know, we all can have. And again, that's just, again, from my experience, I remember how if I did go in there and touch something, a lot of you know that, you know, you will either get embarrassed in the store or she'd be like, wait till we get home, you gonna get your ass whooped, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man. So a part of me in that poem, I talked about even the fact of like, yeah, my free will as a child, know I'm gonna want to touch something. But hey, it's worth it. And it's almost like, even though you didn't want to get the whooping, it was like, I'm exercising my sovereignty and free will as a little child, the innocence. But again, that's how a lot of our innocence was taken away through the control, through the foundations of mothers and fathers who wanted to control so much of the narrative. And these are behavior patterns that I realized I picked up on, that I didn't know consciously about when I was gradually of age and even becoming a father. I was like, yo, whoa, this ain't even me. And that's the thing about the healing journey. These things come up. These things resurface. Sometimes we're not even aware that we are doing certain things and we think we're progressing. And in reality, we've been repressing and suppressing it. And we think we've been finding solutions. But when you really look at it, what have you done new lately? What new have you done that's unknown that you're scared to do? And that's the thing about when it comes to publishing that, like, if I knew I was around certain environments and so forth, it would never happen. If I knew I was even still going back to like attach and not know how to stand in my own power as a man, it's not even just a man, but the little boy in me taking back that power and recovering those parts of myself, this would never happen around certain people. You know, there would be no encouragement, no support, no genuine support and so forth. And that's okay. But the beauty in it now is that I know my worth. And so do you. And that will come through the healing. That will come through the uncomfortability of how much you have suppressed throughout the years, how much you realize your mom and so forth. And you will have more self-compassion. And so that's why I encourage people. The reason that I talk about that is so you can see, like, that's me finding a solution rather than in an old way I will find excuses or always try to encourage and pour into other people. Like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And I should be telling my fucking self. That's just the reality of it. And the more I do that and focus less more on people and external things, I begin to realize, like, the power really comes from within. When you navigate through these things, when you face things that you didn't want to, and it'll just happen so rapidly or effortlessly. It'll just flow. Because those two books, being that it was even, I think together they're like almost 60 pages, but just that, like, I've had things regarding my mom, like rehab, going to rehab or something pertaining to that. I've had things with a younger sister, finding out that she has like some things dealing medically and in the hospital, having to get like cancer treatment, my own focusing on my own mental health, well-being, trying to navigate through my own emotions, through these things that come up. What else? Yeah, you know, trying to show it for myself, And seeing the importance in that, because the root of what I'm exposing has a lot to do with the abandonment and how much I used to abandon myself, and the uncomfortability that it really highlights when people, once you start loving yourself, and they question, like, how dare you, or how dare you not do what I say, how dare you not listen, how dare you not take my advice, or just so much of, we don't even realize how much we've been giving over our power to everybody else, but really using it for ourselves. And still seeing the importance of how that still has a ripple effect. No matter how uncomfortable people get, unease, and how much they project, curse you, want to say all these things, you have a purpose. And the beauty of that is that you've already been walking into your destiny. You just been, in the past, I realized I was around people who were allowing others to decide their fate because they didn't care about who they were. They didn't care about their well-being and so forth. And being a generational curse breaker, or being who you are, that comes with the fact of, like, the acknowledgement of that, and you preparing for a journey that looks nothing like, as the elders once say, traveling the road least traveled. Yeah, I said that. Traveling the path least traveled. I believe I said it correctly. And that's like a road of, as you progress, you're building the stones. After learning an experience, or in the past of you realizing, like, you look behind you and realize those foundations are no more. Those foundations are no more because simply that's just, it was all an illusion, or it wasn't built upon something that was stone. And the beauty of the things that I just share with y'all, the books and stuff, is that, no, I didn't have, I'm glad I didn't go through it like, and this is not an attack on nobody else, but go through it the way of, like, because those are self-published. Go through it the way like someone else would. Because I'm a firm believer of, like, be in the world but not of it. So it's like, I'd rather do it my own way, in the sense of, like, again, what I just told you, I had to navigate through all that, block all that out, and type. Like, this stuff that was still coming up with my mom, people calling me and telling me this is going on, and I'm hundreds of miles away. I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? There's nothing I can do. And that's the most challenging things with recovery, through anything, rehabbing through anything. You have to allow yourself to rest. You have to allow yourself to, listen to your emotions, to your body, to everything. And because you can't rush the process of, that bone or that body, or, whatever it is, to heal. And it's the same thing with the healing journey. There were times where I would go, and what I realized I was developing, or had developed, a pattern of avoidance, or, that abandoning my emotions, that abandoning the parts of myself, because I saw people do it so much. So that's where you see a society that overworks and overhaul the displacement of the woman and man when it comes to, the woundedness of a little boy who is trying to chase after a woman when it's rooted in his mother wounds, or chase after this false identity of, like, I gotta be all like this, I gotta have all this to be perfect for this woman. All these external things. Same thing when you see with the women. It's like, you gotta flaunt your body, you gotta do all these things, you gotta have all this. And a lot of it's rooted in wounded masculinity or father issues, to where they don't know how to be themselves. And they've been in it consistently for so long, to where, a lot of us are now finally, some people are so far gone. And that's what you see with a lot of elders. No judgment, but it's just what it is. But some of us are now trying to come back home to ourselves, to our innocence. And that's the recovery process. How do you recover something? You don't just necessarily go look for it. Sometimes you realize the shit is right in front of you. You've just been overlooking the whole time. And so that's the beauty of a lot of this. It's like why I share the things on my path, because I haven't been perfect through it. But I'm not ashamed or have guilt, because had I not went through it, how could I create the life that I love, instead of, be unhappy? And again, like, see people create a lot. They're not even creating a life. It's like they are unconsciously, but focus on, like, they don't even live in the life like they love. They hate it because they hate themselves. And then that's when, you know, you see this environment that they want to create for everybody else, this reality, and that's not mine. That's the deep acceptance. Like, I had to move away and part ways with things like that, because the beauty of it is, like, I now allow myself to create the very things that I wanted to do as a child. I realized it was still in me. I just had to reach within myself, go within myself to recover that and be restored with that, and allow that process to be more harmonious, prosperous, organized, secure, and feel worthy of it. So, yeah, that's what I got for y'all today, man. Y'all take care of yourself, and know that it's a process, and grant yourself grace. You know, this too shall pass. Peace and blessings. Shalom.